Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's class. We'll continue with the Ajax. In the last class, we started looking into the Ajax, and Ajax, as you know, it is we use it for the asynchronous call. Okay, so Ajax is very useful in order to make the asynchronous call, and using those asynchronous call, we can only get a portion of the website or the web application reloaded with the most recent information, not touching the rest of the display. That is how the user experience will increase, and unnecessary requesting the complete page and reloading the page every time that can be avoided using the Ajax. This is the simple asynchronous request that we saw. Client browser, and we have the browser interface. Then we browser parses and builds the DOM and then renders the HTML. And by some user action, there is a certain information is required from the server. A server request has to be sent. That is taken care by the JavaScript. JavaScript makes that a synchronous call, and maybe it's some kind of a web service or whatever. It sends that request, and rest of the application is available for the user, and it will be responsive. Like if user wants to do some other kinds of action, he can do. Meantime, we the request will be processed, and once the request is processed, JavaScript processes the response. We receive a response from the web service, and JavaScript processes that response, and it updates the browser interface, so that the updated information is displayed on the web application. This is the one example we saw. One option, like in this particular page, we are displaying the time. Maybe the time should get refreshed every second. Then one option is like submitting the whole request for the whole page, and the server will process, and it will provide the complete page with the updated information. So it will provide the complete HTML with updated information. Rest of the information will be same. Only this information will be updated, and that response is rendered on the browser. Instead of doing that, we can do a asynchronous call using the JavaScript. So instead of reloading all these pages, only this part can be sent as a asynchronous call, and when a request is when response is received, that response is processed, and this time information will be updated on the web page, while other page remains intact and available for the user usage. This is the how we can do. jQuery provides a family of methods to make a synchronous request, and this is a very simple example, time example. We have a method called load. In this particular example, this is how, in case of a jQuery, we get the element. How do we get the? This is the jQuery shortcut notation, and this is id. Any element that is having a time due. Suppose, let us say this particular element is having a id as a time due. It will access it dot load, and we call this particular php. Let us say that particular php will return a the current time on the server, and that will be displayed in this particular element. So you can see this particular element is a due. id is equal to time due. This is another example, get request, a synchronous call. We have a web page, and one part of the web page is like some kind of a voting. Then user will select some option, and they will click on the vote. So this particular data will be submitted. This particular form data will be submitted. let us say user has selected the option is equal to C, it will go as a get request. In this particular example, it's a get request dollar dot get, and then you will give the query string along with the PHP. So vote.php, that is the resource that will be called on the server, and this particular value will be provided. And as a response to that, maybe we'll give get them different values for the different stats for these four options that will be painted on the web browser. This is the general syntax for the get request, jQuery.get. Then we provide the URL that holds the location to send the request. For example, in this case, we had the URL o.php. Then optional data parameter we can have. Then this is the optional callback function that gets executed whenever we get the response, and the response data represents the response data. Text status, whatever is the request status, whether it is a successful or whether it is a failure, that will be returned. And JQXHR is a object, so that object it describes completely the response. Then we have the optional data type that is expected from the server. This is the example $.get and we are calling this get method asynchronously. Then this is the URL o.php question mark option is equal to C. Then we have this particular function. Whenever we get the response, this will get called, and based on the status, what is the status, we can take a necessary action. Let us say this text status is equal to success, means whatever request was made, we receive the response without any problem. So we have the requested data. So you can just log, you can write into the log files. This is the how console.log, it will write into the default or wherever the log file you have specified. Then you are going to write this particular string success responses colon plus data. So data will have the all the data as a response from the this particular request. In our example, it is a time, whatever the current server time, that will be available in data. And else, so if it is not a success, then it will call the error. There was an error code, and JSXHR, this is the object that will hold that will be having the all the information. Dot status will have the status information that will be logged into the default log files. And after this console.log all done, means the asynchronous call was, whether it is successfully or with a failure, it has completed. So that is how our this is the after end of the call, we write it into the log saying that all is done. Then we have the JQXHR object. Whenever we have the $.get request, that request is made, as a response, we are going to get this particular object JQXHR. These are the other different method. Abort stops the execution and prevents any callback or handlers from receiving the trigger to execute. Means it will abort that particular request. Get response header, it takes the parameter and gets the current value of the header. Ready state, there are four states represented by the integer 1 to 4. 1 is like sending the request, 3 is processing, and 4 is the request is completed. Then we have response XML or response text. It is the main response from the whatever the request that has been placed. Then we have set request header. We can pass the name value. So it can be used for instantiating the request, allows the header to be changed for the request. Suppose if you want to change the header, you can do that. Then we have the status, as we discussed. It is the status of the HTTP request, whether successful or not. Then status text, it is associated description for the status code, whatever the status code we have. this would be the description for that particular status code. Now, using the JQXHR object. So whenever we are making a request, either it is a get request or the a post request, we are going to receive a object, that is JQXHR object, and it has methods. These methods done, fail, always. We can use these methods to make a code modular. So what is the meaning of that is, when when the request is successfully executed, then we get the done method is called, and whenever there is a failure, a fail method is called, irrespective of what is the whether the request was success or not, always it is always called. So that is how we can modularize our code. Suppose you want to, whenever the request, whatever the request we made, if it was successful, then we want to carry out a certain action that can be put into a done method. And let us say if the request is a failure, then you want to take alternate steps. For example, using asynchronous call, you are making a database request. If it is successful, you want to go ahead with let us say you have set of queries to be executed, you can do that. Suppose if that request is a fail, means due to some reason database cannot be connected. If there is a alternate database or alternate source of the data, then in fail method we can use that. Irrespective of whether it is successful or failure, you want to implement certain thing, that can be included in the always. That is how we can make a code very modular. Client browser, you can see here, and there is a get request o.php option C. Okay, it is going to the server. Okay, and once the server processes, we get it as a response based on what is the status of the HTTP. We can take different actions. If the status is successful, then JXHR dot done. So you can have a block of a code where you can include all the code that you want to execute when the request is successful. If it is an error 404, you want to include certain other part of a code, and irrespective of what the response is, you can execute this particular set of the code. That is how the previous example, whatever we talked here, this is implemented using these three methods. Okay, that is the implementation, whatever we talked about. You can see we are capturing that object here in JQXHR variable, because this $.get request is going to receive a object, that particular object. Then object.done, object.fail, object.always. If object.done is successful, then function, we have the data, we are going to log it into the log file with whatever the data we receive. And if it is an error, we are going to log error and the error status. And irrespective of both these scenarios, we will write all done. So either in the log file, what you will see, either you will see the data, means response, the server time, and all done, or some kind of a error, then all done. Only one of these two will be getting executed based on the status. Similar to get request, we have the post request. So there is no change. Instead of using the get, we are going to use the post. Rest of the syntax and rest of the understanding exactly remains the same. Post requests are often preferred to get request because one can be post unlimited amount of data. So in case of a post, we can post unlimited amount of data. In case of a get request, because it is sent as a query string, there is a limitation on how much data can be sent. Get requests are typically not used when we have forms, because they are messy URLs, and that limitation on how much data we can transmit. If there are a lot of elements on the form, yeah, the URL will really get ugly. So you will be having a huge URL, which is not really good. So it is always better to use the post method. Okay, in HTTP 1.1 definition, GET is described as a safe method. So here, safe method, the meaning of the safe is like data will not get changed. So it is a kind of a only read kind of a request. But in case of a post, it says not safe. The meaning of that is the data can be modified. That is the only meaning for that. Similar to get request, the post syntax, the post request syntax is jQuery dot post. Then we will have the URL, then optional data. Then this is a callback function similar to the get success, and this is the response data, response status, and this is a response object and optional data type expected from the server. So you can see these are the two simple, the same request using get as well as post. So here in case of a get, we had $.get and then query string URL we had. In case of a post request, $post, and you will have the o.php, and you will give the what are the option, what are the inputs that are selected by the user. In case of the example, we had only one input, that is a radio button, and its name is like option, and user had selected the value of C. As I told, we when we talked about the serialize is a one good way to convert any object into a string, and using the deserialize, we convert back that string into an object. So we can use the serialize method when we are calling the post method. So it is a good way to convert that particular object into a string, and we can send it to the server. Serialize can be called on any form of the object to return the current key value pairings and as separated a string suitable for use with a post method. This is how we are going to use. This is a variable post data, a dollar. We are going to access the element which has a ID vote form. Means that particular form will be accessed. We have that object, and dot means what is this object? This is nothing but the form object. Form object dot serialize. So we converted that object into a string, and that is stored in the post data. Now we are going to make a post request, $.post. This is the resource on the server o.php, and we are providing the data, post data. It turns out to be both $.get and $.post methods are actually shorthand form of a jQuery.ajax. So this $.get and $.post, these are the shorthand of this one, jQuery.ajax method. Ajax method has two versions. In the first, it takes two parameters, URL and plain object containing any of the 30 fields. Then second version is only with one parameter, is more commonly used, where URL is one of the key value pairs in the plain object. So there are two versions how we can provide. The one line required post our form using get becomes a more verbose code. So you can have what we saw was a simple get method, right? The if you want to have a more detailed call, that this would look like this: $.ajax, inside the bracket, inside the curly braces, we have URL. So it is a key value pair. URL, this is a o.php data, uh, this is the serialized data. Dollar, this is the vote form is the ID given to the form, and hash vote form, this will get the form object, and dot serialize will convert it into a form object. Then asynchronous true means we are making a asynchronous call. Okay, and type is a post. So this is the most like a verbose code. To pass HTTP headers to Ajax method, you enclose as many as you would like to in the plain object. To illustrate how you could override user agent and referrer headers in the post. So this is how, this is the one way we can overwrite like a user agent and the referrer. You can see rest of the information is the same. $.ajax, the key value pair separated by comma. Then we added the headers, header colon. Then user agent is this one, and referrer is this particular website. Cross-origin resource sharing. Since modern browsers prevent cross-origin request by default, which is actually good for the security, sharing content legitimately between two domains becomes harder. Cross-origin resource sharing uses new headers in the HTML5 standard implemented in most new browsers. If a site wants to allow any domain to access its content through the JavaScript, it would add the following headers to all of its response. From the security perspective, cross origin resource sharing is really not allowed or not encouraged. We in case of a HTML5, we have a mechanism whether certain domain or all the domain to be allowed to access through the JavaScript, that can be done using this. So access hyphen control hyphen allow hyphen origin colon asterisk. When you say asterisk, that means you are allowing everybody. Okay, all the domain can reference here. But if you specify uh, a particular domain, then only those domain will be allowed. Better usage is to specify specific domains that are allowed rather than cast the gates open to each and every domain. To allow our domain to make cross-site request, we should add the header. So we can add exclusively so that this particular domain will be allowed rather than using the wildcard asterisk. Asynchronous file transmission. This is the simple form. Here we have the form name is file upload, id is also file upload, and this is the encryption type. Then method post action upload.php. So this is the form, and this form has two inputs. The first one is name is images, id images, and type is file and multiple file. Okay, so we can select multiple files. Then input type submit, we have the submit button. So we have a file, a selector, and a submit button. Name is submit, value is equal to upload files. So this is how it will look like. Not exactly. Okay, we have only one input control and the one input control which has a browse, and then we have the submit button. The original workaround to allow the asynchronous posting of the file is to use the hidden iframe element to receive the posted files. So that is a one way of making the asynchronous call. JavaScript creates a one hidden iframe on the page. Then on the clicking of the submit, the form is submitted into the hidden iframe. So it will get submitted into the hidden iframe. Java sets up a listener on this iframe, iframe's load event, and attach the handler. When the upload is complete, the handler is executed. So this is how the workaround is. Whenever you have the file, you click on the submit. Internally, it will get submitted to the hidden iframe. Then JavaScript will use the listener method, and it will load the that particular file into the server. Okay, this is the old iframe technique. We have $document dot ready, and this is the file listener. On that file dot on, we already learned about this. On and off are used for the setting the listener. And what event we are setting, we are setting the change. Whenever there is a change in the file, it is going to, this is the event handler upload file. What is upload file? Upload file is nothing but the this php upload dot php. This is the function. So this is the not the PHP. This is the function that is a handler for this particular event, and this function is nothing but this upload file. Then we have one more submit button, and .css display is none. So we are making the display as none. Then inside the function we are creating a hidden iframe. We have hid name, hidden iframe, then dollar file upload dot append. So we can see we are calling the append method. So in the previous class we looked into dot append. What the dot append will do, it will append, it will first find this element, and at the as a last child it will append this particular text. Okay, iframe, beginning of the iframe, end of the iframe. Iframe has all the information. ID is there, name, hidden name. Hidden name is nothing but hidden iframe. That is the name given for the ID, as well as the name style dot display none and src hash. So that is added, that will be appended to the file upload. Where is that file upload? This is the file upload. This will be appended here as a last child. Okay, and after that, then set forms target to iframe dot property. We are getting the file upload dot property target, then hid name. So this would be the target. Whenever you submit, it will get submitted to the iframe. Then the same file upload element dot submit. So it will submit that particular file. Then register the load event of the iframe to give feedback. So we are now registering to that hid name. That hid name is nothing but this iframe. We are adding the load event, and we are having this asynchronous anonymous function. That anonymous function is implemented here inside the load. So this is the beginning of the parenthesis, and this is the end of the parenthesis, and inside which we have the implementation. Link dollar this contains find body, then inner HTML, and then you are going to append the image src is equal to a link. So what it is doing is it will add an image dynamically to the page from the file just uploaded. So that is what it will do as a callback function. Whenever that particular event, the change event happens, whenever the change event happens, these are the all the functionality that will be executed. Asynchronous file transmission using the form data interface and file API, which is part of HTML file. You no longer have to trick the browser into posting the file data asynchronously. So now we have no need to use the hidden iframe. We can with HTML5 we can directly upload the file without mimicking it on the browser getting submitted to the iframe, and iframe getting submitted it to the server. When submit is clicked, this is the file that is selected. When submit is clicked, JavaScript interrupts the synchronous submission and uses the HTML5's form data to convert the referenced file into a string. So the this particular step will convert it into a string. Then asynchronous dollar dot post transmits the data to the server and can have the listener execute on the completion. So it will send the data, and it will have a listener which will wait for the completion, and it will get executed on the completion of the request. This is the code for that. Okay, this is the form data. We are going to use the form data in the upload file. We are creating a new form data object, and dollar file upload. We are giving the this will get the file information. We create an object. Then we have the XML HTTP request XHR, add event listener, load error abort. For this XML HTTP request, we are going to add these three events, that is load error abort. Whenever there is a this particular event, transfer complete is called, whenever error transfer failed called, whenever it is abort, transfer, cancelled is called. So those are the handlers. Those are the handlers for the respective events. Then xhr.open, we are using the post method. Then upload.php, we are going to call this particular resource on the server, and true is a, it is a asynchronous call. Then actually we send the form data, xhr dot send, then form data. This object will be sent to the server. And we have set already we have set the listener on this particular request. If it is complete, this will be executed. If it is failed, this will be executed. If for any reason we abort that request, means we cancel that request, this particular function will be called. If it is complete, what we are going to do, dollar dot progress, this object I am going to access. I'm calling the CSS method, and I'm making the so this is nothing but a progress bar. Okay, ID of the progress bar, we are making it as 100%. Then dot HTML also we are making it as 100%. Okay, if it is failed, we are going to, if it is failed, an error occurred while transferring the file. If it is cancelled, the transfer has been cancelled by the user. So those information alert. So as you know, alert, it will be popped up on the browser. When we consider uploading multiple files, you may want to upload single file rather than the entire form every time. To support that pattern, you can access a single file and post it by appending the raw file to the form data object. The advantage of this technique is that you submit each file to the server asynchronously as the user changes it, and it allows multiple files to be transmitted at once. So we can choose to send one file at a time rather than choosing all the files sent at the same time. This is a posting of a single file. So you can see we are selecting that object dot files dot 0. So this would be the first file. That first file, this is the that is stored in the file. New object is created of form data. Then form data dot append images the file. So we are going to give that reference to this particular object, form data object. Here, looping through multiple files, uh, we have a for loop here, and using this property. Okay, so this is what it is, the array of all those files. If there are 10 files, it will be holding the 10 files, and dot length. So this will give the size. I am going to iterate from 0 to less than 10, that is 9. Index is 0 to 9, and we are going to append to that form data one by one. So you can see here form data dot append. Then we have all files, then 0 index. So one by one, each of the files will get appended to the form data. Animation. So there are a few methods that are available using which we can create a animation on the web pages. And we have hide and show methods, can be called with no argument to perform the default animation. Another version allows two parameters, the duration of the animation in milliseconds and the callback method to execute on completion. So if like we can just call the hide and show method by default, whatever the nature, it will execute that. And there is another version where we pass the two parameters. First one is the duration. Suppose if it is like hide, if you set certain time, the objects will be, let us say you set it as like 100 millisecond, it will take 100 millisecond to disappear. So you can imagine how gradually it will go off. Or if you are using the show method, 100 millisecond, that will show gradually. This is the example, show email. So you can see gradually it is showing the complete object. So this is the first phase, second phase, third phase. Maybe it will take 100 millisecond to transition from here to here. So that kind of animation can be used. Then the fade in, fade out. So this is first one is hide and show. Second one is fade in and fade out. Similar to like a show. In case of a fade in, so automatically that particular display will fade in, and if you use the fade out, you can automatically fade out. And similar to previous example, we can send the parameter as a duration. You can set 100 millisecond. Gradually it will fade in or fade out using that particular time. And also you can use the a callback function. Similar to hide and show, unlike hide and show, there is no scaling of the element, just strictly control over the transparency. So here only the transparency will change. So there is nothing else will change in case of a shade in and shade out. Slide up and slide down. These are the two methods that can be used to just have a like a visualization of a sliding up and sliding down that can be achieved using these two methods. Do not turn the opacity of the n element, but rather gradually change its height. So you can say opacity, none of those things are changed, only the height is changed. You can see here from this to this, it will transition slowly. The height will keep on increasing. Then toggle, as you may have seen, shortcut methods come in pairs, which make them ideal for toggling between show and hidden state. Using a toggle method means you don't have to check the current state and then conditionally call one of the two methods. To toggle between visible and hidden states, you can use the a toggle method. We can use the toggle method to go between visible and hidden. And similarly, fading in, fading out, we can use fade toggle. So it will automatically, you need not worry about the current status. If you use the toggle, if you call the toggle once, if that particular element is visible, it will make it as hidden. If you call toggle again, if that element is hidden, it will make it visible. Similarly, fading in and fade out, you don't worry about what the current state is. Just call this method automatically. If it is fade in, then it will go for fade out. If it is fade out, then it will go for the fade in. Similarly, for the sliding in and sliding out, we have the toggle method, slide toggle. Raw animation. The animate method has several versions, but the one we look at has the following form: dot animate properties, comma options. The properties parameter contains a plain object with all CSS style of the final state of the animation. The option parameter contains another plain object with any of the following option set. So those will be this: always, done, duration, fail, progress. Always is the function to be called when the animation completes or stops with a fail condition. This function will always be called. Means irrespective of what is the end result of the animation, this uh, uh, method is always called. Done is called when the animation completes. Duration, number controlling the duration of the animation. Whatever the animation you are choosing, either hide, show, or fade in, fade out, slide in, slide out, whichever you are choosing, this is the duration of that particular control. From visible to not visible, this is the duration. It will take this much duration to toggle between those two states. Fail, the function is called if the animation does not complete. Progress is the function to be called after each step of the animation. So the animation will be divided into steps. This progress will be called up after each of those steps. Then Q is a Boolean value telling the animation whether to wait in the queue of animations or not. If false, the animation begins immediately. Step is a function you can define that will be called periodically while the animation is still going on. So I told you it will be called in the steps. So using this step function, you can periodically call. If you want to take certain action during every step, you can put that particular implementation in the step function. The advanced option called easing and special easing allow for a advanced control over the speed of the animation. These are the raw animation. In a web development, easing functions are used to simulate that natural type of a movement. They are mathematical equations that describe how fast or slow the transition occur at various points during the animation. So these are the easing functions. Easing functions is how this thing transition from one state to another state, which will give a very good animation, like a visual look of transferring from one state to another state. In case of a jQuery, we have linear and swing easing functions. This is the swing function, and this is how the linear function will look like. This is the transition period, and this is the formula that is used. Inside the jQuery, UI extension provides over 30 using functions included in cubic function and bouncing effects. So you should not have to define your own. So there are like a good library of jQuery UI extensions that can be used as a using functions. So you need not have your own implementation of any kind of a transitions. This is the advanced example. This object dot animate, then we are showing opacity, show font size 120%, margin right 100 pixel. Then this is the step function implementation. Inside the step function, so here fx dot prop, that is it's going to get that property is equal to margin right. If it is margin right, it is going to change the angle. So that is how the implementation is here. We are doing the transformation, then WebKit transform rotate angle. This is the angle that is calculated here now divided by 100. Okay, so this is the function. This is the animate function with the step function, and it basically mimics the rotation. So rotation like this. Okay. This code, you need not worry about the too many details of this code. If you understand generally, like this kind of animation can be implemented, and this is the sample code for which we can use element, how to make a particular element to rotate. You can see based on the time. Okay, t is equal to 0. Here, this is the initial stage. Okay, then opacity, you can see it is changed. So these are all controlled using that particular piece of code that I showed. The angle is calculated. Okay, so that is how you will get the at every step. We are calling it at every step. At every step, these things are executed. The repeatedly the angle is calculated, and some of these parameters are changed. Okay, opacity, margin right, angle. You can see the angle is increasing 0 degree initially, then 108 degree, 230 degree, and back to 0 degree, means it will make a one complete rotation within a duration of 5000 milliseconds. So 5000 millisecond is like a 5 second. Backbone MVC frameworks. Backbone is a MVC framework that further abstracts. MVC is a model view controller. This abstract the JavaScript with libraries intended to adhere more closely to the MVC model. This is the website backbone js.org, where you can find the backbone library. How to include script src underscore hyphen min.js and backbone hyphen min.js. Those are the two JavaScripts. Backbone, you build your client scripts around the concept of the models. Backbone.js defines the model as the heart of any JavaScript application containing the interactive data as well as the large part of the logic surrounding it. conversion, validations, computed properties, and access control. So that is the model. View is basically it is related to the how the data is represented. Okay. Then controller is it will provide a interface between the view and the model. The model you define using the backbone must extend the this particular backbone dot model. In addition, a model's backbone introduces the concept of collections, which are normally used to contain list of model objects. These collections have advanced feature and like a database can have indexes to improve search performance. A collection is defined by extending from backbone's collection object. There are views. Okay, so MVC views allow to translate your model into the HTML. So that is how we can translate model into the HTML. They attach themselves to the methods and properties of the collection and define methods that will be called whenever backbone determines the views needs refreshing. You must always override the render method since it defines the HTML that is output. So we have to override the render method. You can see here this is how the backbone structure is there. This is we have a travel album. Okay, album list is there. So they extend the backbone dot collection, and we have travel. So this is the album list is a collection, then travel album is the model, then travel album is a it's a view, backbone dot view. Then we have the application initialize and the render is the one which will produce the output, or the it will render the on the HTML page browser. This is the code example. There is a backbone is not covered in detail. Very superficial information is included. If you have to really work on to backbone, a lot of details about backbone has to be understood. How each of these can be incorporated. This gives only a very brief understanding of the backbone. This is the model example. Travel album. In the previous you saw a travel album. This is the model. Defaults we have title, photo, and published. Then toggle function checked. This is the how we create the model, and this is the collection, backbone dot collection extend, and we have model travel album. All this information. This is the new album list. Inside the new album we have this is the travel album model. You can see title, then all this information is there. Whichever we included in the model, that will be created here. Title, then we have the photo count. This is the example of the view. We are creating the use using backbone.view.extend, and all the events, whichever the events you want to include. Then event handler should be there. Okay, toggle album. Click. It is like a map to the toggle album. That is the model. Okay, so that is mapped to the model. And this is the initialize method, and this is the render method. Using the render method, we render the HTML. So you can see here, it will render the HTML on the browser. That completes the Ajax part and the brief introduction to the backbone.